What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica podcast, episode number 279. Here we are every Tuesday night bringing you the latest on Benfica. My name is Alfredo. I'm here with Cristiano Oliveira.
Hola, how's everyone doing?
And up in Canada, Steve Santos.
What's up?
Which is, I have to apologize ahead of time if Steve is a little bit out of character because this is 10 o'clock now as we record this. Might be past his bedtime. He's going to get cranky in a little bit. But one person that's not cranky at all is Dave de Oliveira. What's going on, Dave?
How's it going, boys?
Steve's been cranky since about 4:30 this afternoon. So, I mean,
Oi, não comece. Dave de Oliveira's got a big trip coming up. He will be in it. Dave, did you lock up those tickets for this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going. I've got tickets for this weekend. Also Sporting Atletico and then Sporting Porto next week as well.
Sporting Atlético? Vais fazer para lá o quê, pá? Vais ver o Griezmann?
E não ouviste o gajo e depois o Sporting Porto para a Taça Portugal.
Sporting Porto. Pá, you got a full schedule, bro. I admire you, man. That's good. Anyway, on tonight's podcast, we will look back at the Setubal game that Benfica just barely squeezed out this past weekend, and we'll look ahead to the big game this coming Sunday against Porto, the Clasico, a game that could be decisive or not, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's start with the Setubal game first. Benfica traveled to the Bonfim, lined up with the following 11. Varela was in goal, Almeida right back, Diaz and Jardel the center back pairing, left back was Grimaldo, in the midfield triangle, Feza, Pizzi and Zivkovic. On the wings, Rafa and Servi, and up front, Jimenez. Jonas was the lead scratch. Apparently, he felt something on his back, and he had talked to the trainers, and I think it was more precaution than anything that they decided to sit him. Obviously, with the big game coming up, and with him having some complaints about his back, and without probably the medical team not being able to get a full assessment to make a full examination since he was in the warm-up stages. I think that they did the right thing by scratching him, and he went to the bancada to watch the game there. Jimenez came in, and and what a substitute he was. But I'll give you a little bit about the game. I thought that Benfica played well in the first half. They created a couple chances. We did go down one goal very early in the third minute. And then we had to really fight against or fight to chase the result. Like I said, we created a few chances in the first half. I thought the combinations were good. I thought the movement off the ball was good. Even the movement with the ball was pretty decent from Benfica's part, and we did get the equalizer in the 27th minute by Jimenez. Another, I guess it's something. I don't know if I could say that this is typical of Jimenez getting that ball at second post, but this is a ball that gets played, and I think that a guy with his type of effort and dedication and commitment is able to latch on to that ball at the second post and put that away. So the goal comes at Benfica's best period of the game, I would say. Setubal, who was very well organized in defense, compact. I think when you scored the goal, and Steve, I know we traded a couple texts in regards to this, but Setubal's game plan and the fact that they scored early really played into their game plan.
Yeah, I mean, how much more could they have asked for? They scored a goal early without really, the game didn't even settle. Benfica, it was the third minute, I think it was super early.
Third minute.
And then they made it very compact down the middle, did not allow us to play down the middle at all. Like you said, the combinations, especially down the left, were pretty decent, but they became predictable. I mean, I was surprised that we got that goal from Jimenez on a cross where really he was the only guy in the box, and there was three defenders and a keeper that really probably should have got to the ball before Jimenez did. But like you say, that shows a little bit of belief and character in him to be at the right place at the right time. But the way we look predictable at only really going down the flanks with the combinations with the three little guys on the left and a little bit of Rafa and Almeida on the right, it doesn't leave me in a very happy place. I know when you miss Jonas in the middle, it makes it a lot more difficult to play through the middle. Jimenez doesn't have the awareness or really the feet to play in the tight spaces, to drag opponents where they don't necessarily want to go and make the ball go around them, etc., the way Jonas does. So that's going to make it harder for us to play and vary our game a little bit. I found that once they knew that all that we were going to do is go down the sides, even if with combinations, whatever the way we did it, they were comfortable for the majority of the game. The second half came, and when Seferovic comes in, if there was combinations and there was a plan and there was a little bit of patience to try to do things in a more controlled fashion, that went out the window when Seferovic came, and it not too much fault to him. I think the game plan or nerves or desperation started to set in, and we were just playing really direct. At times, it was a bad game to watch in the second half. A lot of back and forth.
Yeah,
almost like a volleyball or a tennis match.
Yeah, Benfica had just something that's indicative of how dominant Benfica was as far as how much they control the game. Benfica had finished the half with 74% of the possession in the first half. That's quite a big number. That's almost tiki-taka kind of numbers. But the second half, as you mentioned, Steve, was a totally different story. And Cristiano, let me ask you this, right? I think that there's been some improvements usually from the first half to the second half, where the team comes out a little bit more clear with more urgency. But the second half was really, really crappy. How much do you think that there's a pressure element that you're down 1-0, you got 45 minutes to play to be able to turn this game around? And now that we're entering this final stages of the season, how much do you think that played in the pressure?
I'm pretty sure some of the pressure has something to do with it. But at the same time, a lot of times we sit here, we don't like to give the opposition credit. And I think, they did a tremendous job of coming out and trying to punch Benfica in the face themselves rather than just sit back. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, Benfica needed to get on the scoreboard. Benfica is the one that needed the 3 points ultimately and desperately. So I think they said, look, if they don't have the ball, we talk about this on a podcast here all the time. If I score more than you do, you're never going to beat me. If I have the ball, you're not going to be able to score. And I think it was a little bit of that in the second half. I thought it's Setubal on their part that they wanted to create their chance because they knew Benfica was going to come forward looking for the goal. Therefore, there was going to be opportunities for them to go on a counter. There's going to be opportunities for them to create their own chance. And I thought they played well. So sometimes we just have to tip our cap to the opposition. I think this is one of those instances that, yes, it was ugly for Benfica, but it wasn't because Benfica was tripping on their own. It was a little bit to do with the opposition as well.
Yeah, and the other thing is that if you think about it, if you look at the second half, Setubal had 2 clear-cut chances where they could have doubled their advantage on us. They could have scored that second goal. One by Edinho, and I think there was another one by Costinha, if I'm not mistaken, who was the scorer of the first goal. Benfica didn't have a shot on goal, a meaningful shot on goal, until the 80th minute of the second half. So it's quite indicative as to the hard time Benfica was having in penetrating the defense. And like I said, while the combinations were there in the first half with the movements and off the ball movements, in the second half, and especially with the introduction of Seferovic, I thought that Benfica really lacked ideas. So that we had Seferovic introduced, we had Salvio come in, and those guys looked to do something. And then we finally caught that break already, and at a time where Salvi was brought down in the box. And some people might argue that there was a soft call. Some people might argue that that wasn't a penalty at all. Look,
I understand.
Go ahead.
I understand the question of the soft call, guys, to be brutally honest, because when Salvi was grabbed by the shoulders from behind, had he gone down then, I don't think anyone would have questioned it. He did take 2 steps and then went down, which to me, look, it's still a penalty. But I think had he gone down initially when the initial contact came out, I don't think anyone will be questioning. I don't think anyone would dispute whether it was a penalty or not. So that's the part that I kind of understand where people come from. But I spoke to referees and about this, and I said, look, had he gone down initially, I made the same point I just made to you guys here, and the words were, listen, the referee played the advantage. Give him a chance. And once he came down, he got a call because there was contact there. There was a foul. And so at the end of the day, to me, anyone that's watching that and thinks that wasn't a penalty, I don't know what you're watching, because you guys know how I am. I come here when it's not in favor of Benfica, I'm the first one to say, look, Benfica got help. But in this case, to me, that was a clear penalty. Look, just like last week.
Yeah, I'm if you guys that follow the podcast know that that I referee a bit. I'm a licensed referee, and as a referee, you're taught to play the advantage, right? So not to benefit the infractor. So if that foul takes place and you see that the player that still has control of the ball, could still make a play despite suffering the foul, you let it play. Once that player, whether he stops on his tracks or he loses that advantage, you got to call that back. So regardless of how soft you thought that foul might have been, it's two hands on the back. Two hands on the back is right. It's not a soft foul. One hand on the back, maybe a nudge on the back, is soft. Two hands is a premeditated action to foul. Right. And I think that once you realize that he had the two hands, he threw his arms up in the air, but by then was too late. I thought that when Salvi went down, the timing of it is perhaps what causes a lot of people to have questions about it. But like I said, as a referee, if you see that the player loses the advantage, and in that particular play, whether Salvio fell down as a result of the pull or he fell down after he felt the pull, and then he felt, well, if I fall down here, maybe I get the call. Regardless, if he gives up on a play, if he were to stop dead on his tracks, just stop, the referee could have called that. Rather than falling, the referee could have called that a penalty because of the advantage. So that's the way I look at it.
I spoke to you afterwards. You pretty much echoed what the other referees I spoke to, and one of them is an actual MLS referee. And you guys were all on the same page when it came to that, because I sent him the video, and he said pretty much you guys said word for word what the other guy said. So
yeah,
maybe a lot more comes. Steve, where do you stand on that?
Steve thought it was soft.
I think I'm being dead honest, I think if that happens in the opposition, in our box, doesn't get called. I'm not going to lie to you.
Could be.
My feeling is big club will always win that. Will always win that call, and whether or not I'm not going to say it. It's those calls, man. I don't even like discussing them because it's never black and white. And to me, I don't know.
Steve, look, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I think if that's Setubal's play, I don't think it gets called, and that's what makes me not like the call that much. I'm not saying that there wasn't a foul there initially. He stays on his feet. He has the opportunity to play the advantage. It doesn't go. I get your theory behind it. I just don't think that theory would apply. And this is me being Benfiquista. I don't think that theory would apply to the other box, knowing the way football tends to always favor the bigger teams for one reason or another, whether it's the backlash they'll hear in the press or what. But that's the way I feel towards it.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that a lot of people will respect that shout, and myself included.
I'm not saying Steve's crazy. That's not a crazy shout at all. But like,
it's the timing. It's the timing.
The timing. Yeah, the two steps.
If that happens in the 60th minute, no one's really going to say anything. You know what I mean?
Well, not only that, it's the timing of how he falls.
Not that that's right. It's just those unwritten rules in football. You know what I mean? Where 90th minute plus, it's got to be a very clear-cut penalty, or else anyone's going to be on your back. Yeah. And only the big clubs get those kinds of calls. For me, that's what I feel. But that might be a tainted view.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's not that I disagree, but look, that's a good shout. But to me, there was a clear grab. There was a clear grab.
There is a grab.
I said when I started this that I thought it was soft at first. Yeah. I thought it was soft because he did take. I think, to me, the part about it that makes it soft is, I think if he wanted to continue on, he could have. He could have.
He definitely could have. It wasn't.
And he decided to go down. That's why to me it's like so. But then on the other hand, was there a clear impediment at the time? Yeah, the guy stopped him in his tracks from getting that extra momentum, that extra step around him. So to me, that's why it's a penalty. Yeah. But you're right. If it was the other way around, it most likely 9 out of 10 times does not get called.
Yeah.
That's what makes a referee's job so difficult. Yeah. And in all those gray areas, plus
because it's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of judgment as far as the referees and instinct.
And then the scrutiny that they're under too, on top of it all, right?
You turn it around. You go back to the same game last season at Stadio Bonfim. Carrillo gets, slit tackle, gets taken down.
Right.
You remember that? I remember.
Yeah, and there was nothing right in the corner of the box, and the referee played. So look.
Yeah,
I say this all the time. The big teams are going to get helped out more so than the small teams. I'm not naive enough to sit here and try to paint a different picture.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But at the same time, when I say the big teams, let's look at the 3 big teams in Portugal, right? SLB, SCP, and FCP, right? You look at those 3, and I say this to my friends all the time because obviously, you've been a witness to the phone calls I get, and bro, at one point or another, it's going to come back around. You know what I mean? Like today, Benfica gets helped out, and then Porto. There's calls that we could all sit there and
but the little teams don't get as many calls as the big teams. I get it.
Absolutely. That's
If you need to look at that Carrillo play, just YouTube Benfica Setubal or Setubal Benfica last season,
and that was way
The Carrillo goes down the line and he cuts back, stops the ball before the goal line. And the guy just slides and takes him out, and no call.
No call. And then it was all legs. No ball, no nothing. All the referee said, and Benfica ultimately loses the game. I believe 1-0.
That's right.
Did they lose or tied? I don't remember.
They lost. I think they lost.
They lost. Okay. So again, bro, look, you're gonna get some. You're gonna give some. I understand that when it's in the 92nd minute, that's the big uproar that everyone's talking about because, like Steve said, and you said, if it was in the 60th, people still talk, but they'd let it go. But it's in the 92nd minute.
Yeah,
a team that really didn't play particularly well, a team that was struggling to put chances together, and then you get bailed out. Look, it's part of being smart on one side and being dumb on another side. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, absolutely. So 9 consecutive wins for Benfica, and these are courtesy of Dave. Not since 2013 has Benfica scored 2 or more goals in a game in 9 consecutive games. Benfica late game heroics this season. Seferovic 92nd minute goal against Chaves to win 1-0. Jonas 90th minute penalty against Sporting to tie 1-1. Jonas 97th minute free kick against Bulnes to tie 1-1. Jimenez 93rd minute penalty against Setubal win for 2-1 was the most recent one. So there it is. 3 points. Benfica keeps the advantage over Porto, and now we turn our attention to the big Clasico that comes up this Sunday. And I'll give you some numbers here as soon as I get to the page. So Sunday, 6 p.m. local at Stadio Luz. Porto is currently second, as everybody knows, 73 points from 23 wins, 4 ties, 2 losses. They have scored a total of 72 goals and only allowed 16 allowed. Away, 9 wins, 3 ties, 2 losses. So both their losses this season have come away from the Dragão. 27 goals scored, 8 allowed away. Benfica has the best attack in the league. Porto has the best defense in the league. So Benfica yet to lose a game at home this season. Last 5 at Stadio Luz, 2 wins, 2 ties, 1 loss. Last 10 head-to-head, 3 wins, 4 ties, 3 losses. And one of those 3 wins was a win via PKs for the League Cup quite a couple of seasons ago. Just a couple more numbers. Jonas, the best scorer of the league. Teles, the Porto player, most assists in the league. Jimenez, most goals off the bench with 4. Marega, most 2-goal games with 7 games with 2 goals. Porto, 25 game streak without losing. So those are some cold hard numbers for us to consider. But one thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into that is actually a couple. There was a lot of talk about Benfica Lab last season where we had a lot of guys that were hurt. that didn't play. There seemed to be a lot of muscular injuries, and there was a lot of criticism as far as the Benfica Lab. One of those guys was Fesa, of course, and Dave actually went ahead and did the research in the 2016-2017 season. Fesa played 35 games. Benfica played out of 54, appeared in 64% of the games last season. Wow, Dave still even has the percentage. That's pretty good. This season, the 2017-2018, Faces already played 31 games. And Benfica has played 42 games, appeared in 73 games. Then the other guy was Grimaldo, which we know that he's a little bit injury prone also. In the 2016-17, 22 games played. And appeared 41% of the games last season. This season played in all competitions, appeared 76% of the games this season. 32 games he's played for. So he's already surpassed, Grimaldo has already surpassed the game totals of last season. Face, I still think he still has 4 more games to tie last season's register. Of course, Benfica was involved in more competitions last season. But here's this question to you, Steve. Benfica didn't make a change on Benfica Lab. The guy that was in charge of Benfica Lab or the medical team was a guy that they brought from Spain, if I'm not mistaken. It's a Spaniard doctor, and things really seem to have changed. Right, we don't see as many injuries, the type of injuries that we saw last season. So this could be something that Benfica has improved on.
Could be. Again, how much is down to luck or amount of fixtures? It's kind of hard for us to sit here and speculate, but the numbers are a lot better than they were last year. There's no doubt about that. But I do feel that I think that the fatigue of playing the 2 matches per week that we haven't had since December has helped with the injury situations. But what do I know? I mean, I said at the beginning of the season I'd be surprised if Jonas played more than 80% of our matches, and Dave's got another great stat up there. He's played 93% of our matches this season, 39 games total, which, given Jonas's frailty, I mean, the guy's not known to be a superb athlete. He's not a very muscular guy or very strong or anything like that, but he's really put it out.
He's not like me, Steve. You can just
say
like
or
me.
Myself, exactly. For that matter. But there you go. It's something where we've had, whether it's luck or good people at the helm, where Porto has not. I mean, we're going into this game just to segue into it, and Porto's missing one of their most important players. As long as Jonas is fit, which I don't think anyone really has that much of a worry for that at this moment, we're going in with basically as strong as a squad as we could possibly have. So it's hopefully one of the factors that's going to make a big difference in the game coming up this weekend.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And last season, just so to wrap up this Benfica Lab thing, Jonas only featured in 52% of the games last season, and
but he had a longer term injury, which I believe was it his back again, or
no? He had an ankle injury, and then there was an infection.
Yeah.
It was an infection that he had some liquid in it that they had to keep draining it, and he had year, but thankfully he's been healthy.
But look,
healthy for us.
Steve hit it on the head. I mean, look, I'm not taking any credit away from the new training staff to the new medical staff, right? I'm pretty sure that they've changed things, and obviously their new methods are helping the players out in some way or another. But the fact that they're playing 1 game a week, I mean, that allows guys with little nicks here and there to rest a lot, as opposed to last season when they were in the Champions League, Taça de Portugal, Taça de Cerveja, Campeonato. I mean, they're literally playing 2-3 games every 7-8 days. I mean, you know what I mean? So that wear and tear on your body this season is a lot easier to take. And I'm not trying to say that Jonas wouldn't have played otherwise, but it's a lot easier for a guy to stay fresh and to participate in a lot more games, because we've seen over the last couple of weeks some of these, the one time, if you guys recall, a couple a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was. We thought he injured his knee and it looked pretty severe. And he played like 2 weeks later, a week later. Had we had more games, right? Another 2 games coming because of the Champions League, Taça Portugal, whatever. Now that 93% is going to look a lot lower. You know what I mean? So that has a lot to do with it. And again, the coaching staff, the training staff, medical staff probably has a lot to do with it. But to me, the biggest thing there is
a lack. Yeah, it's less games. One thing that I wanted to mention, this directly ties into it. Steve was watching the game. I think last night. I think the last night or Sunday night you were watching it, right, Steve? And one of the things that we were talking about is that Steve was mentioning, and I think everybody has kind of noticed that Grimaldo is getting beat in situations where he hadn't been before. Right. So my thought was in taking into this Benfica Lab thing, I wonder if, and sometimes he's getting beat for pace, not so much on the 1v1, Steve, as you mentioned in the text, but sometimes he's getting beat for pace. He's getting out muscled oftentimes. And my thought was right away to think about what if they changed Grimaldo's regiment in the weight room, so he's not putting as much strain on his body with the weights, that's allowing him to stay fitter longer, but at the same time he's giving up that strength on the one-on-one and that speed.
This strength, getting beat on one-on-ones, strength-wise, pushed off the ball, that's something that doesn't worry me at all, to be honest with you, because he's a small guy. He's a small guy, and a lot of times he's going to go up against bigger, stronger guys that are going to push him off the ball. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is getting beat with the speed. When he's getting beat, that was his one attribute one of a couple of attributes that he had. I was coming in, a guy that could play with the ball, that's very good attacking, coming forward, that could play as a midfielder. But on the defensive side, we sat and we questioned how good was he defensively, how good was he, positionally on the defensive side of the ball. I remember having those specific conversations here on the pod. But one thing we never questioned was his effort and his speed. The guy would always, even if he'd be caught out of position, he'd always make up with it with his speed. And I'm not sure that his training regimen, the weightlifting I don't think that affects the other. It just, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not a trainer, but I have a little bit of expertise on that, experience on that side. And I tended to, when I lifted weights, I used to lose pace. I used to not be as agile as I was. Maybe in that instance, if they make
because you were squatting 300 pounds, dude.
No, not like that. Because it was never the lower body; it was always the upper body. It just made me stiff. Unless they got him on some type of training regimen that way, right? But I don't see it. I think to be honest with you guys, and I know I'm stumbling here over my words, but I haven't found a way to put a finger on what it is that's wrong with Grimaldo so far this year. Steve and I have had these conversations over the last year where I don't think he's been anywhere near as good as he was when he originally signed with Benfica and he originally played at Benfica. I know he showed some flares last year, but I don't think he's been anywhere near as good. I just don't see it. And so this year he's getting beat a lot. And to me, the strength I don't really care about. It's the speed. It's the fact that he's not making up that ground that he's losing to these players. That's to me the concerning part.
Yeah, absolutely. So now let's turn our attention to the Clasico now, as I mentioned. But it's good to have to go into the Clasico with basically your full roster that's healthy. I mean, aside for Krovinovic, which is out for the season, we pretty much have everyone at the disposal of Vitória, right? We can't say the same thing for Porto. They had injuries.
Do we know the Jonas' status? I mean, we think he's going to be, but does anyone know for a fact?
Well, from what I understand and what's been mentioned on the media is that he's going to be fine.
Okay.
So, nothing to worry about. As I mentioned, I think that it was more precautionary because the medical team couldn't make a full evaluation on whatever he was complaining about. So now that they've had time to make a new evaluation and have put some kind of a training or a healing process in place to better his condition,
Galinha
Preta. Horse placenta.
I don't know about just Ronaldo on his ankle. I don't know about you guys, but he looked fine to me when Jimenez scored the penalty. His back, if it was his back, didn't look like his back was bothering him at all that game. Just saying. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he was quite enthusiastic, which you would hope that he was. I mean, he lives the game even when he's in the stands. He's 100% committed. It was nice to see that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get into this now. All right, so I know that last year Cristiano and I were actually at the Porto game at the Luge, and quite a different approach than what I think Sergio Conceição is going to have. I think that Benfica still had to play Sporting, if I'm not mistaken, next in a few rounds afterwards. And I think that Espírito Santo went in thinking that if we grab at least the tie here and stay within arm's length, that we may very well grab these points. But I don't think that's going to be Conceição's strategy or game plan coming into the Luge.
I hope it's not, but at the same time, I think it's their best bet, to be honest with you, because, like you mentioned, Benfica still has a couple of very tough games, and in that one in particular at the Alvalade, and I think they're going to sit back and say, look, if we're able to get out of here still 1 point behind, and Benfica trips up at Sporting and ties that game, all we got to do is win our games. Our destiny's still back in our hands. I mean, I understand it's a big if, but it's not like, Benfica is not playing anyone the rest of the season. Now, it depends what the hell goes on at Sporting, and I hope they keep, killing each other over there over the next couple of weeks, and especially heading into that game. But look, I think that it suits them. A draw suits them. None of us anticipated
a draw suits Sport.
A draw suits Porto at the Luge.
It suits both teams.
None of us. I think Benfica's under pressure. I think Benfica, as a Benfica fan, I can make an argument. I can sit here and make an argument for both teams that they both need to win. They both need to come forward. And in a way, I hope Sergio Conceição does that, because hopefully it'll open up a couple of opportunities for Benfica, because I think they're going to sit back as well. And it's going to be one of these games to see who commits the first mistake.
It doesn't, knowing what I know about Sergio Conceição, and Steve, you could add on to this or disagree. I don't think Sergio Conceição is the type of guy who's going to come to Estádio Luz to play to a draw.
I have to agree with that. My only fear is both coaches will know that the loss will be a much bigger blow than anything else. And I think I mentioned on last pod, I'm scared that will taint the decisions that they make in the game, both on our end and on theirs. It's difficult to say. I think within the first 10 minutes, if one of them is really going to try to be aggressive and go for it, you're going to see it. I don't. If it looks like it's cagey from the get go, I think it's going to be more or less that throughout the whole match. But we'll have to see. I mean, what could Conceição set up that would look super aggressive and really look like they're coming to attack us? I feel he's going to match us for shape, regardless of how he does it. Probably. So it's going to be hard to read by a lineup what he's going to do, unless he throws in Corona.
The difference is going to be the intensity.
I think if I'm Sergio Conceição and I really want to come and attack Benfica, I just look at my game model from the first game that started the Dragão, the second half in particular. Just look at what we did in that game and apply those same tactics at this game that started to lose, which will be high pressure.
But that was a different Benfica, man.
I understand. But they have the now. I just wanted to bring it back, Steve. You mentioned before that you think the one thing you're scared about is both coaches are very afraid of the result. And to me, when I look at two coaches that are scared of the result, usually I get a boring game. Two teams that sit back because they're both scared. Teams don't play to win games no more. Teams play not to lose. And in both cases here, I think not losing will serve each club well.
Yeah, that's my fear as well. But if Porto plays to win the game, we can expect a very direct Porto, one that's looking to create a lot of physical battles all over the pitch, where they're going to be stronger than us, because that's the type of players that they have in their side. I'm going to expect them to play 4-3-3, similar to the way we are. The Danilo loss for them, I think, is huge. I don't rate the guy that much myself, but I could see what he brings to Porto, especially screening the defense and using that physicality to help his center backs. But like I said, I'm expecting 4-3-3. I expect, like we said earlier, they're going to try to isolate Grimaldo and really try to force Marega on him for 1v1 battles, whether it's in the air, at the back post. You'll see, regardless, maybe Marega or Abubakar, whoever, will always be trying to exploit the fullbacks, and neither one of them are good at or defending.
I can see the same thing with Brahimi and Almeida on the other side, Steve.
But Brahimi has a tendency to come inside more, and penetrate down the middle. I'm saying more on, like, okay, a direct pass to Marega that's going to be a foot race, a high ball to Marega that's going to be, again, a duel in the air that Grimaldo's likely to lose. That's what I'm seeing that as an out ball, as a point of attack for them, and that's my worry. That's where I'm thinking that they may have an edge. Yeah. I think if the ball stays on the ground and we're able to play our combinations with the players that we have, I think we could be successful. But again,
we need a sharp Rafa, Steve. A sharp Rafa, because I think that'll be the key, because I think Ricardo on the other side will be tremendous. And I think Alex Telles has been played really well this year. He's arguably the best left back this season in Portugal. But I think Rafa with his speed and Telles sometimes loses his mind. I could see that's a case of a second yellow. I think Benfica needs to exploit that, and Rafa needs to show up this weekend.
You have no questions that in your mind, there's no doubts that Rafa is going to get the starting spot over Salvio? Or do you think there's a question mark on that?
Salvio still hasn't played more than 15 minutes, man. You can't throw him out there in a big game like this unless you really think that Rafa is going to be a defensive liability, and you know what you get from that side of the ball with Salvio. And if he does that, that to me shows that they're really not going to go forward. They're worried more about holding a result. Steve, what you think?
I completely agree. Every point you made.
Yeah.
And Marega is also out as well. Marega's been out with an injury, so
he's doubtful.
He'll play. He's doubtful, but he'll play. He could have played this past
Here's
weekend.
the thing. He hasn't played. How much game rhythm does he have?
He could have played this past weekend, but they held him back just to make sure he's ready for Benfica. He's been practicing. He'll be, you know what I mean? I think when it comes to push and shove, he'll be there on Sunday.
But here's the thing, right? A guy like that who's very powerful, who depends a lot sometimes on the game rhythm that he has, just because of his power and his momentum, how much, having been sidelined for a few weeks now, is going to play a part in how his contribution is going to be if he does start.
It's a valid question. I mean,
it is.
He's a player that thrives off of the physical attributes that he has. If he's not in 100% shape, it's going to make a difference for him, I would assume, because let's be honest, he's not going to be out there because he's a wizard with the ball at his feet. He's not going to be out there because he's a great finisher. For me, I thought he could have put us away in the match at the Dragão easily if he had his finishing boots on. So.
Yeah, but let's be honest. From a Porto standpoint, Steve, whether it's him or whether it's Suarez, they're very similar players.
Yeah,
they're not the guys that don't have that.
But Marega has been more.
But Marega's a lot faster,
he is. But I think Suarez is a better finisher.
I find Suarez better finisher, but more static.
Yes,
more static.
But they play the same roles, though. Guys that need to get to the ball, that get into space and use their body. They use their strength to get to those spots. You know, Abubakar, I think, has got a little bit more of agility in his game than I think either one of those other two do. I just think that you sub
a more complete forward.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, but that's why I say I think whether Marega is healthy or not, I think it's still going to be a very, very tough game for the two centrales from Benfica with those two monsters up top.
I'll let you guys think of, all three of you, think of what your three keys are for this game for Benfica. But before that, I just want to, if I have to get into Conceição's head and the way he's kind of, his personality, the way he's motivated this team, I think that in knowing that they've been up and in first place for such a long time, that his attitude and his message to this team has to be, we're better than these guys. We have been better than these guys all season long. We got to go out there and show them that we're better. I don't really think that, yes, he won't be completely disappointed with a tie, but I think that he's going to go for the win. I really think that he's going to go for the win. And as Cristiano mentioned, that is something that could play in Benfica's favor.
Yeah, knowing his personality, that's obviously what you would expect him to say and what you would really think or want him to say. I don't think that they're that much better than us, that if they think that they're going to come and steamroll us, that's going to happen. I think if they're open, we have the technical ability to really exploit that. So we will hope that he comes out to try to win the game. If it's boring and it's a lot of breakups in play and 1v1 battles, etc., I think it suits more their types of players than ours, and that kind of worries me. I mean,
the physicality,
when you have Rafa, Zivkovic, Jonas, they're going to want contact of the ball. They're going to want a game that's flowing. They're going to want to feel the confidence. They're going to, you know what I mean? If the game's constantly getting broken down, constantly having fouls, I don't think that serves them well. We'll have to watch. I mean,
that's a game where a guy like Jonas is
key. Yeah, one chance, one goal, it's done.
Exactly.
Well, here's the thing, and then we'll get into the three keys. Jonas, for as many goals as he has scored for Benfica at the time at the Benfica, he's only scored one goal against Sporting this year, and one goal against Porto last year at the Luz. Both games finished 1-1. But that has been, for as much as Jonas has been impressive as far as the goals that he scored, and many teams are his favorite victims, he has only scored, in his Benfica career, only scored one goal against Sporting and one goal against Porto. And he's played quite a few matches against both teams. So that may be one thing that you want to watch for. But Steve, you want to go ahead and mention what the three keys are?
One key is definitely don't get intimidated, regardless of what type of game comes out there, what type of aggression Porto plays. We got to play our football. Second, for me, I think given the way, maybe our last two games have not been good, but prior to that, we've been playing a football where we're taking initiative. We bring the ball up from the back. We want the ball. We're playing possession football. We're winning the ball further up the pitch. Our reaction to losing the ball is really good. I want to keep that same attitude, that same mentality, because I think in Jonas's defense, to do with his lack of goal scoring against these big clubs, I think even in the times with JJ, we never really went into these games playing in that way. We always played in a way where, well, if you guys have the ball, we'll set ourselves up in a way where we can control the space, and when we have the ball, we'll see what we can do. Given the way we've played in most of 2018, I hope that our mindset's different. And that's a key for me. I think if we're playing in a game in a way where we're taking responsibility, we're the ones who want to go out there and win. I think we have, at this point in time, we have the tools to do that kind of job. Where in the past, the team lacked a little bit of that off the ball movement, the interplay, and this year, for most of 2018, we seem to have it. I'd like to see that. That for me is a huge key. I think if we see that, I think we'll see a good result. Then on the third one for me is set plays. They're monsters at set plays. They lost Danilo, but they got the two center backs. They got the two forwards. Sergio's not small. They got a lot of height in that team, and I think being very careful of the way you give away set plays is going to be important. You don't want to see a lot of crosses coming into the box with the keeper that we have, especially. I mean,
Varela usually has good games against Porto.
So let's hope he does again. There you go.
For you, what are your 3 keys for this?
I was gonna leave that for my last key, but I think I'm not even joking. I think the front 3 need to show up to play. I think Servi, Rafa, and Jonas, they need to show up. They need to demand the ball. They need to not be afraid to create their chances and take their chances and try to take players on one-on-one. They need to show up in this game. The other thing is, I think it's imperative for Benfica in the first 10-15 minutes to come in and impose themselves on Porto and show that they're here to play, that they're not going to back down. I think that's going to go a big way, and it goes along the lines of not, like Steve said, I'm not going to use the words intimidating, but it goes along those lines to show that, look, we're not going to be pushed around, which I guess is intimidating. It's our house. We're in first place. We are a far cry from the team we were back in October, whatever the hell it was, Estadio Dragão. And we're here to win because we trust in ourselves. We believe in ourselves, and this is our campeonato. And I think that's the best way to do it. You come in and you kind of push it back on them, especially if they come out with that attitude, that Sergio Conceição attitude that we all spoke about. So I think it's important that Benfica establishes their style of play, establishes their momentum, their rhythm, establishes how they want the game to go. And then the other one is whether you think Casillas has lost it or not. I think he's still a huge upgrade at goal over Varela, and I know Varela's played well, but every game Varela makes you scratch your head, and I think Sergio Conceição is a smart guy, and I think anyone who's watched Benfica play this season
will get tested.
Knows that the one way to test this guy is cross the ball, as Steve mentioned. Abubakar, Suarez, Marega to a certain extent, Herrera, Sergio Oliveira. Those guys all have height. Felipe Marcano, those guys are all tall. So they're going to, I think, cross the ball as many times as they can, put that ball in the box, and hopefully for them, right? That's what they're hoping, is that Varela comes out and fumbles one and messes it all up. But the question is this. I have a couple of questions, but one of the questions is, we know they're going to play in a 4-3-3. Who's going to be in the middle with Sergio Oliveira and Herrera? Is it going to be Otavio? Is it going to be Corona? Who do you think is going to be?
Could be Otavio, Corona. Could be Oliver.
Corona's more of a winger.
I don't think Oliver will be it.
I don't know what Oliver's story is. I mean,
I don't think so.
That's another Zivkovic.
For me, Oliver is one of the most talented players in our league.
Yes.
And to see how little he's played, it leaves me a lot of question marks that I'm glad he's not in my club to have all those question marks like we had for Zivkovic earlier. For me, it's probably Octavio. He's got that tenacity and that attitude that really fits in with Sergio Conceição, I think, and that's my guess. If
Conceição comes in with a guy like Andre, I'm not even sure if he's fit, so I apologize if he's not. But if he comes in with the midfield trio of Herrera, Andre, Sergio Oliveira, or even to a certain extent the other Mexican kid, Diego Reyes, I believe, is a guy that plays center back, and he also plays defensive center mid. Mm-hmm. To me, and it's the question, to me, it's a clear indication that he's there to get a minimum or a draw. Would you guys feel the same way?
Yeah,
or?
Not to expose himself.
It would look that way. For sure, it would look that way if he played with a center back at defensive midfield. It was definitely looked that way.
All right, now last question. As much noise as I've made about this over the last couple of weeks, I mean, it wouldn't be just if I wouldn't bring it up. So 6-0-0, 60th, 65th minute. Jimenez is on the bench. What do you do? I mean, you stay. So you don't switch it to a 4-2-2.
Depends on the game.
4-4-2.
Depends on what the game's asking for.
If they're down a man, maybe. If they're not,
it depends what the game asks for.
I think he comes in with him. I think Jimenez is warranted. I think he's.
I'm sure he's going to play some part this weekend. 65th minute. If it's 0-0, like we said earlier, tie suits both teams.
I don't know, man. I don't see it.
I'd be wary
that early. No,
I'd be wary to change it up.
I don't see it that early. I think that if it's
knowing that a tie basically suits both teams.
Here's the thing, right?
Why are you going to go out there and try to go for it? I'm just saying.
That's exactly right.
I I get we want to show initiative, but at 60th, 65th minute, games evenly divided, basically anything, individual quality, an error could tip the scales, right? You're bringing in a lineup change, a guy who is, okay, he's a goal scorer, but he is prone to error, could lose the ball in the wrong situation, could cause a counter.
I'm with you, man.
Could imbalance the midfield chemistry or setup that you had. Dude, I'm gonna be honest. I would not be the first one on to jump to that change.
Not that early.
I'm gonna go out on a limb with something crazy and say this: if Jimenez doesn't start this game, if he doesn't start this game, I think anywhere between, if it's 0-0, 60, or for trailing, forget about it. He's in easy.
Yeah, trailing's a whole other kind of works.
0-0, 60 to 7, he's in the game. I think he's in the game. I think Benfica, like you guys mentioned, you could look at this both ways. You know, you're so close to a draw and it suits you, yada yada yada, but it doesn't allow you any more wiggle room. And I think with 25 minutes left, 30 minutes, 25 minutes left, and I could grab that one goal, that one important goal that gives me that wiggle room, I think Vitória will reach for the stars. Yeah. I really do. And I wouldn't be surprised if, based on the way Jonas has played against Football Club de Porto over the years, right? And I'm not sure if he's 100% or not, right? I wouldn't be surprised if he starts Jimenez. Jimenez did have he scored 2 goals. Whether you want to call him lucky or not, the guy's always around the ball. He's always around the net. He's a guy that Benfica, if they are going to sit back a little bit, they're still going to want to put some pressure, some high pressure. And obviously, Steve, we all know that he does that way better than Jonas. The guy doesn't stop. So I think he could be a disruptive force. So I wouldn't really just, unless if Jonas is 100%, I think he's. But if there's a question mark there, I think save Jonas for the last 35 minutes, and he starts the game. But I think he's going to have a role to play, guys. I think he's going to have a role to play here.
Yeah. Dave, what are your keys, buddy? I know you're going to be at the game. Just
so the Beja be fun. What else?
Be balkish.
Yeah. I'm expecting first 10 minutes of the game to be really important to see if we determine the pace of play. Nice quick goal would open things up. Second point would be Porto's going to make this an aggressive game, I feel, with Sergio Conceição. Don't get involved in the extracurricular activities if they're playing physical and they're going to want to try to get in our head. Just brush it off, make them play our type of game. And third, I'm expecting, I'm not expecting, but I'm hoping for a big game from Pizzi. If Pizzi's not having a good game, then I'm going to agree with Cristiano. Then they're going to bring in Jimenez sooner than later. And if he's having a good game, then it's
no, don't worry about it. If he's having a bad game, they'll take out Zivkovic. Don't worry about it.
Good call.
We've seen that before.
Good call. No, I completely agree with some of the points that you guys mentioned. I think that, I'm with Steve. 60, 65 minutes, the team is playing well. We're not suffering. The game is balanced, or we're even dominating a little bit. I don't think we need to bring in Jimenez. But I do think that he has a role to play in the latest parts of the game as Benfica is making a push. And if we can identify that Porto is struggling with fitness towards the end of the game,
Jimenez is going to play.
Here's
for
the
sure.
question.
He's going to come on the pitch. The context of why we're going to need him
that could change, obviously. But Steve, here's the one thing we know for sure, right, Steve? Here's the one thing we know for sure, and Alfredo and Dave. Whether Benfica is playing well or not, we know this is going to be a high-intense game, right? High-intensity game, right? It's going to be a game with tremendous intensity. Everybody's going to be on edge. And who better to play on a Benfica roster than that, than Jimenez? That guy is all about intensity. That's why I think he's going to the 6. Look, even if we're winning, I think he's going to come into the game. That's how much I believe that he's going to get into this game.
Oh,
even if we're winning 1-0 in the 60-something minute, I think he's brought into the game because the guy could close up a lot of gaps.
You think guaranteed Jimenez plays bare minimum 30 minutes?
20,
or 25?
Yes. It could be 30. I mean, if they're losing, it could be 30. But, yeah, look, one thing we've seen is that
They're losing. It might be 40.
Yeah. Vitória hasn't been afraid. Vitória hasn't been afraid to make an early change when Benfica needs a goal. Right? He hasn't, this year at least.
Yeah.
He hasn't waited. All right. Even to a point in the Taça da Cerveja when he brings in 3 strikers and whatever, we're in extra time. Now we got no defenders and everybody's falling apart. Yada yada. He's gung ho. Let's go. Bora pa frente. And so I think Jimenez is, dude. I just think that the guy could be so disruptive, and he's the closest. He's the only guy really on our squad that could play with that tenacity, that disruptiveness up top. I don't see anyone else. I mean, Seferovic has it in him, but he does it for Spurs.
Very different.
Yeah, very exactly. He does it. A huge 65-yard sprint away, and then right. It just
intensity level is like night and day from one to the other.
So this game will be. You could cut it. You could cut the what do you call it?
The tension with a knife.
You could, and I think, and he's gonna be key for that.
All right, yeah. Let's wrap this up. Dave will be at the game. So hope you bring us some good luck, Dave. Next week we will be back and break down the Porto game. We'll look ahead also to Estoril game, which is a game that just as important as the Porto game. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for listening, for watching us. Please subscribe via iTunes or Stitcher Radio and all that good stuff. Cristiano, hopefully we'll be back next week and we'll have a smile on our faces. Steve, same thing. Dave, good luck and enjoy yourself. Don't forget to check out our friends over at planetbenfica.co.uk and everybody else.
Bring me back some castañas, Dave.
Some castañas. They'll be cold by then.
Yeah. Still gotta ship them over to you.
Hey, I'm off social media, so I don't get suspended. Okay.
Oh,
I don't know what that means.
Means that other people get suspended for making wise remarks on social media, and since he's off, he doesn't have to worry about getting suspended.
What kind of wise remarks?
I don't know.
I think that's a sporting reference.
Oh, okay. But are you on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook.
That's the danger. All right, everybody. Thanks for checking us out, and thanks to Bruno Carvalho for providing me deep funny entertainment. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys again. We'll talk to you guys again next week.
Arrivederci.
See you, everybody.
Later.